And he's the first man to climb all 7 highest summits in 7 continents, skied North and South Pole. He's the 26th person, but why stop there?
Deepak Chopra says it's never too late to begin creating the bodies we want instead of the ones we mistakenly assume we are stuck with. Today, we are so super honored to have Len Stanmore with us. Thank you for being here, Len.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, and I have to say this. I've been talking to for multiple years now. You've been seeing me for acupuncture for aches and pains here and there. And gosh, I've learned so much about you. And all the time I'm like, you need to get out there and be heard. And you're so inspirational. And you had always said no. And so,
right.
Yeah. So we are super honored to have you here. And you guys are going to be in for a treat, and you'll see why.
Blown away and inspired.
So why don't you tell us about some of the things that Len has done?
Len Stanmore, global explorer and successful entrepreneur in the telecom business, is the only human on earth who has these accomplishments. First of all, he's 68 and looks amazing. I would never guess his age. Had to put that out there.
That's the secret in of itself, right? Yeah.
And he's the first man to climb all 7 highest summits in 7 continents, skied North and South Pole. He's the 26th person, but why stop there? You then went on to cross 4 deserts and ultramarathons, 100 to 250 kilometer runs across the globe in crazy, treacherous conditions. And now you practice yoga and meditation daily. No?
Oh yeah, you do, right? Are you doing it daily these days?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So the ideal is daily, but some yoga, much yoga to, compensate for all of that and practices meditation daily. And you also really thrive off sleeping 8 hours a day. So tell us about actually your daily health and fitness routine now, since I kind of assumed that you did yoga daily.
Start with this morning.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Sure.
Up at 4:00, get ready. Trainer showed up at 5:15, and we did a shorter session, a 2-hour session, but then I'll do a 5K run after this. So right now I'm not training for anything, so it's just this kind of a daily routine for me. I'll do this 5 times a week,
Yeah, off season.
If I'm training, it's a whole different story.
Right.
So training, it'll be anywhere from 4 to 6 hours a day of training. 3-4 hours of cardio, depending on what I'm training for, and 2 hours of strength training. You do that 6 times a week.
Yeah. So this is why Len is literally the only person on earth. And I'm going to add this story as well. So is it Trucking for Kids?
Yes.
It's a charity, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll do certain events for charities, and Trucking for Kids actually applied for the Guinness Book of World Records for you. Isn't that right?
They did.
So, and it was denied because
there was no competition.
There's no competition. There is nobody else on earth that has accomplished what you have done. So of course you can't even be in the records when there's no one to compare yourself to.
And it's really hard to open up a new category with Guinness. It's really hard to do that. That was their other thing. You can have the longest fingernail, that's in there, but to open up a new category with Guinness is very hard to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the point is you could just create your own record. I mean, you are. And I love what you said. Your perspective is, I'm the only person on the planet having different points of views, right? Like, because you're the only person standing wherever you stand.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. Just for myself.
Yes.
Like to stand at the South Pole, the North Pole, or on top of this mountain or that mountain. Nobody else has been. They've been there, but not to all the different spots. So I just something for myself that I think is kind of cool.
Tell us your starting point. I mean, you didn't end up there on Mount Everest and all these 7 summits overnight.
Did I start?
Yeah. Tell us about your first 2 kilometers of a run.
Well, I think before that, you profess to be a normal human being, right? Because people will just read
superhuman now,
right? No, because people will look at all these accomplishments and say, "Holy cow, I can't do that. Like, who the heck is he?
You know,
right?
to do this stuff, you don't have to be a super athlete. You don't have to be gifted. I mean, I'm proof of that.
So tell us how you started off.
You just, well, to get to that point, you just have to train, you know, stay focused. And it's just really, it's left foot, right foot. It's challenging at times, but anyone can actually do it.
So when you say that, you are exemplary because, of course, prior to this, I know that you did have a business that was thriving.
Right.
And you were saying something to the effect about you were at a conference, a business conference, and you heard someone speak. Tell us about that.
Well, I had retired.
Okay.
And, you know, when I first retired, I golfed all the time. This first year was really good. I golfed, I fixed all those things around the house that had to be fixed, you know. I went on vacation, I sat on beaches, but after about, I think, 8 months, I was bored. I didn't have any purpose in life. So I started thinking, oh,
interesting.
I was looking for something. I'd always worked on a plan where I always had a financial plan in life, but I never had a life plan. That's a big difference. So when you retire, I see a lot of people go through this when you retire. They're like, they don't know what to do anymore.
Right.
So lots of them go back to work or they're searching for something. So I was searching. So anyway, I went on this lunch with two businessmen down in California, and they'd been mountain climbing on the weekend. And I thought, that intrigued me. So I thought, I only knew of one mountain, Kilimanjaro. I didn't know that. Everybody heard of Everest, but that was way out of my league at the time.
So you thought, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to go on safari. I'm going to go to Africa, go on safari and climb Kilimanjaro. And I started off with that, and I did self-training at that time. Total disaster.
Okay, but how were you? Well, how was your fitness level before you went in?
Say 10 being perfect, I'll give myself, I'll bump myself up a bit. I'll give myself a 1. Wow. Well, at the time I was business, lots of lunches, lots of dinners. I partied hard, drank way too much, smoked cigars.
Wow.
50 pounds heavier.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How old were you?
When I retired? 48.
Yeah, okay, guys. So a lot of us will not retire at 48. I'm already past that age, but that's besides the point. So it doesn't matter. You could still get fit, right? So tell us about your first training experience now.
Oh, my first training experience, that'd be with Peter. So what happened was, I went to Kilimanjaro, and I managed to summit that. And then after that, I did 2 others, and I was self-training. Big mistake. So I went to the Antarctic, climbed Vincent, and then I went to Russia and did Mount Elbrus. Have you ever seen those runners, you know, when they, in a race, you're watching a marathon race on TV and you see them come in the last 100 yards and their legs are going like this at one point and they're collapsing? That was me. Okay. So when I finished Elbrus, I thought, I need to get a trainer.
Right.
And, you know, I heard about this company, Pilates Consulting, and Peter Lavelle. And I talked to him, and he took me on. And to be fair to him, he's got me through every major event that I've done. And some of them were just brutal. I mean, but training with Peter, I think if I went to boot camp, Army boot camp, would be easier. His training is just off the charts. You think you're training to be a gold medalist at the Olympics.
Wow.
He really, really pushes you, but he gets you there.
Awesome.
Does he do the events with you? Did he go?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no.
No, he doesn't do any of that.
I hope he listens to this, big coward.
He's a big coward. Peter, if you're watching, you will watch and maybe you'll do.
I think the bottom line here is, though, that you didn't do it alone. Like, you felt like you were super supported.
I couldn't
and it's
have done it
important.
without him.
Right.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't push yourself that hard.
Right.
So you need somebody to push you. So
Right. So whether it's, you know, doing Mount Everest or doing an ultramarathon or actually just going for I got to stop saying just,
right?
you know, attempting your first 5 kilometers,
Yes.
right? I mean, there's no difference because I remember you saying that when you ran your first 2 kilometers, actually, we would just love to hear about that and coming out of your mouth. So tell us about your first 2 kilometers as you were training on your own.
Okay, so I went to Peter. I had him as a trainer at that point.
Oh.
And I said, you know, I want to do, because I had done the climbing, and I said, I want to do a race. And he's like, okay. He said, how long do I have to train you? I said, 4 months. And he said, so what are we doing? I said, are we doing like, you're trying to do a half marathon? I said, actually, it's in the Gobi Desert. It's a 250 kilometer race. So I just saw him. He's looking at me. He's like, oh, God. So I remember, so he started me on a training program. And I came home and I ran the first day. And then when I came back, I ran back home and I thought, I'm going to measure this in the car, see how far it was. It was 2 kilometers. I was thinking, oh God, what am I signing up for?
248 more kilometers to go, right?
I know.
So how long did it take you to get to that point?
So I went to the Gobi 4 months later, and that was a disaster.
Okay.
Yes.
It's good to know.
That's one of my failures right there.
But we love to hear that because it didn't stop you.
No.
Well, no, it didn't, but I had to go back. So what happened, I went to the Gobi, I didn't do my research. So I showed up there and I did 2 things that were completely wrong. I was running a trail race and I brought running shoes. Doesn't sound like a big deal. I didn't even know there were trail shoes.
Oh.
So they're made differently. They're really hard. They don't bend. And you're running over really rough terrain. So consequently, your foot's twisting and going forwards and backwards. After about 80 kilometers, I started getting blisters. Okay. Did I stop and treat the blisters, or did I just continue running? I continued running. So at about 170 kilometers, I had massive blisters on the bottom. I mean, massive. So there was a doctor. They always have a doctor on the race. And he said, you can continue to run, but if you do, you'll do permanent foot damage.
Wow.
So I had to bow out of that race. But it drove me crazy because I didn't finish it. So I went back 4 years later and did it. And then I decided I'd just do all 4 of them.
Did you see 170 kilometers as a success, though, still? Because
No,
right?
but it was eating away at you, right?
It drove me absolutely crazy.
But now looking back, still?
No.
Okay.
No.
Nope, it's a failure. And it was just, ignorance on my part, not doing my research.
Interesting.
So that's Len's perspective. And of course, coming from our point of view, it is not a failure because who runs 170 kilometers? I don't think I've done that. Well, I know I haven't done that in one shot ever. Not even close. So,
but people can do it. Like watch people.
And 4 months
of course. Training. Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. Right?
Outstanding.
Absolutely amazing.
And that is a lot of persistence, like mental commitment. It's
you have to put your mind in a different spot.
Yeah.
You can't be thinking about, you've been in races and sometimes they're say 250 kilometers. It's 54 degrees Celsius. You got to run 90 kilometers that day. You're carrying a 40-pound pack on your back. If you start thinking, I've just ran 8 kilometers and I'm dying, it's going to be a tough race for you.
Of course.
So you really have to think of other things while you're running. I usually count songs. So I'll have my my earbuds in and I'll be counting songs. And I know if I count 100 songs, I've been out there for 7 hours.
Wow. So I didn't know that. I was wondering, I thought, do you run without any music? So you don't. You run with music.
Depends on the race and how deep I have to take myself to a different place.
Of course. It's kind of like this transcendental experience where you got to get out of your body, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
You can't be thinking about it all the time, what you're doing, because it can get mind-boggling.
So I love that you mentioned this because when you see me for acupuncture for some of these aches and pains, you'll actually tell me on the spot, oh, I hate running. And I just laugh.
Well, I do hate running. I hate it. If you pass me and I'm outside running, I look like this grumpy old man. I don't have that big smile on my face. I'm not one of those people that goes, wow, I love this. Oh, I hate it. It's so monotonous.
So is it the goal? Is it the goal?
It is. It's the challenge.
The challenge.
Yeah. And on the other side, I get to travel all over the world, see new places, and you're not staying in a 5-star hotel. Most of the times you're in a tent. So you're seeing how people really live in those parts of the country, and I like that stuff.
So it's the whole experience.
1,000-star hotel.
Yeah.
Some of it's absolutely amazing to see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and again, the perspective that you get to see it from, versus in a car and in just, the main centers of different cities, you're going to places literally that hardly anyone has traveled because you're traversing places that are really treacherous, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's not, and the runs are not runs where there's a path. And I mean, lots of them you're running through jungles, you're climbing up the 800-foot sand dunes. Some of the races, the temperature or the events, the temperature can be minus 70. It can be plus 54 degrees. I mean, it's all over the place. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I like it.
And do you like it when you get lost? I remember you said something about you got lost in the desert.
I did get lost in the desert.
Wow. Running?
No fear?
I was in the Sahara Desert. So I don't know if you know runners. We have a tendency to put our head down.
Yes.
And just look in front of us. So they have little flags going along there. The rule is, if you miss a flag, the flags are about every 100 yards, maybe 200 yards. But if you miss a flag, you're supposed to stop immediately and go back and figure out where the flag was because you've made a wrong turn somewhere. Well, head down. I'm in the Sahara Desert. We're doing a 90K run that day. Head down. And I just kept running. And I realized I had no idea where I was.
You're in the zone, completely not paying attention to the flags.
It was hot.
Wow.
You had your pack on. I think I got lost for 2.5, 3 hours.
You got lost for that time.
Yeah, I had no idea where I was. And I'm trying to spot other runners somewhere. Couldn't spot it. And you're just thinking, to yourself, you're thinking, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I did. And it's funny what your mind does. You're thinking to yourself, if I could just fall down, if I can find my way back, I just fall down and maybe break my wrist or my ankle. I could get out of this gracefully and I wouldn't look like a fool, right? It does go through your mind. You think of all those things. It's like, oh. But it's funny. It's always your mind that takes you out of the race. Your body can keep going and going. The body can do amazing things.
Yes.
I've been in some events where 5-6 hours into it, I'm totally exhausted. Can't take another step. If you can shut your mind off, 6 hours later, I'm still going. And I'm not a super athlete at all. So your body can do it. Mm-hmm.
So that's curious to me when you say I shut my mind off. So what do you do? What happens when you shut your mind off?
Me, I go to a happy place.
So what's your happy place?
I think about all kinds of things. I could be thinking about family, about the grandkids, friends I have. I have to go to a different spot.
Right.
In the event itself. Or sometimes I'll listen to music, I'll go back and forth. Just to get out of the spot you're in.
And I guess the music brings you memories
It
too,
does.
and then smells.
Right.
Perhaps you've done an event similar, brings you back to another event. And you don't do this alone. You do this with groups, right?
With groups.
So tell me about the social aspect. Is there an element to that brings you to
it's
doing
a great
it?
element. Some of the people, I know people all over the world now. I think I go to almost any country in the world and bump into somebody that have been in a race or a climb or something like that. And I think when you're all suffering together, right? So when you're all suffering, you tend to bond with one another.
Yes.
And it lasts. I think it lasts for a lifetime.
Yes, and I love it because when I asked you to do this interview with us, you immediately went to, there's some other people that you might be interested to speak to, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have Michelle Kakade. And
she's fantastic.
So, and she ran, was it mountain climbing or running? Across the desert, I think, right?
I did the 4 deserts with Michelle. We did every one together. And we're both beginner runners. But after she did the 4 deserts and she finished them all, it's amazing, she decided to do a 6,900 kilometer run around India.
Yeah, she's from India.
Yeah. And she's raising money for women.
Yes.
And she ran every single day until she ran the circumference of India. 6,900 kilometers.
So we can't.
How do you wake up after? I was telling Mary, after you've run 1,000 kilometers and you still have 5,900 to go. But she did it.
Yeah, and amazing.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. So we can't wait to have her on as well.
Great. Yeah.
And Luis Benitez, yes.
He's quite a character. So he's famous. Everybody knows him in the climbing world. I lost count. I think he summited Everest 5 or 6 times.
6 times. He summited 6 times.
Yes.
And he's gone up the summits all over the world. So over 32 times in total, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
He's a great guide. I've been with him he's our guide on Everest. I was with him on Vincent. I was with him down in South America. Yeah.
So it almost excites me to do something like that, but I don't see myself really doing that.
You never know.
Well, I always feel like in the forest, 10 kilometers, huge accomplishment.
It is.
Yeah, I did my 1 marathon. I'm like, I'm done. But
I'm interested in the mental gymnastics of all of it. So what's your proudest moment through all these events, like where you were able to get past the mental gymnastics of, I can't do this, or like where you got yourself?
My proudest moment.
Yeah, or it doesn't have to be a moment, but any suggestions on?
I know this sounds, everybody's going to go, oh, really? But it's true, because it was so far out of my realm of possibilities. I think probably climbing Everest. Yeah, it was just like, as a kid, you watch it on TV, you see it, you ever really think you're going to be, I had no delusions of never thought about doing it, right? Just kind of came up, but actually being there and actually getting to do it. And then once you do something, you're standing on the top, then you start getting scared because you're thinking, now I got to get down.
Right, which is the hardest part.
And didn't you have a fear of heights?
I have a huge fear of heights. Huge.
I love that.
I would have I wouldn't be able to stand on your roof and look over the edge. There's no way.
And then you just summit Everest.
Is this Everest?
That is. That's the Lhotse face.
Okay, so
Camp 3, yeah.
For those of you who are listening, we would invite you to actually watch this episode, because we're going to have some clips of some photos of you in doing whatever you're doing. And let's talk about one of the near-death experiences that you've had, because I know you've had multiple. Is that correct?
I could throw 2 of I've had tons. I don't know if it's near death or not, but Luis could probably, he was on this one. So we're in the Antarctic. It was my second climb. I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, we had just finished summiting, and we're coming down, and Luis said, there's a storm coming in. We can't get back down to base camp. We have to stay at high camp and weather the storm out. It's like, okay, I don't know. So anyway, you have these little tents. They're like 7 feet by 7 feet. And I'm in with 2 French-Canadian guys, really nice father and son, Jason and Bruno, roadie. And so you're in the tent. It's like the storm hits. And it's really cramped. You can't even roll over because you're in this tiny little tent. The storm got so bad we had to tie a rope between the 2 tents to pass food back and forth. You couldn't get out of your tent to go from me to you. You couldn't go 5 feet. Complete whiteout.
Wow.
And that lasted for 3 solid days.
Wow. So imagine being
you can't move.
lying down.
Yeah.
So of course I went to, how the heck do you go to the bathroom?
I was thinking about eating. Like, what did you eat? You're thinking elimination. I'm thinking chicken food.
You get to know one another really well in that tent. But, and the other, you'd be in the tent and you would hear it sounded like a train was coming. And what it was the wind. But you'd hear it first, and then it'd take about 2 minutes later, maybe 2.5 minutes, and then the wind would hit. And it would be so fierce, it would just pop the top of the tent down, and it'd be vibrating over you like this. So you're just staring at it. It's like this, and then it would pop up and it would go away. 5 minutes later, it'd do it again. Did it for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And I was lying there thinking, man,
could you sleep?
This is ever going to be over. Yes, you have nothing else to do. So,
right. You're already lying down.
Meditation, sleep.
Cold, but you're not moving around, so you don't have a lot of circulation. I can always remember. I didn't remember this until I started thinking about it, but I'd probably wake up every 2 or 3 hours and I'd have to rub my feet. I was afraid they're going to freeze.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, it was cold.
Of course.
And you were in the tent alone?
No, with 2 other people. In
Okay.
a 7 by 7 foot
Wow.
So you're
very
close.
small. You can't
Yes.
stand up. You can't sit up. You can't move. It was a long 3 days.
Yes. I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Luis, who's climbed all over the world, he didn't tell me this at the time, and I had no idea. He said it was the worst storm he's ever in.
Wow.
I was like, oh, really?
Lucky you.
I'm glad I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You probably did a lot of talking.
we did. And then there's long periods of silence because you're thinking, oh, God, we've talked for hours. Let's just,
Just take a
how
break.
much longer is this storm going to last,
Wow.
right? But yeah, that. And there was another one down in, I like this story even better, though, Aconcagua. So Aconcagua is the highest mountain in South America. So we'd summited, we came down, and we were at base camp, and base camp is at 13,500 feet. And one of the guys that I was climbing with had been there the year before. He said, Len, he said, so you got to walk from base camp out. And it's a 2-day walk. He said, it's a 2-day walk. He said, last year what I did is I got a gaucho, that's a South American cowboy, comes up, he brings a donkey up, and he's on a donkey, and you ride out. You can ride out in 8 hours. Yeah, I'm in for that. I've already been on the mountain for 3 weeks. I don't really feel like walking out for 2 days. So anyway, I got the gaucho. He shows up the next morning. He doesn't speak any English at all. That's fine. And he ties his 15-foot rope to the 2 donkeys. He's leading the way. A kilometer into the ride, I swear to God, going along this little path. It's about this wide. It's all covered in rocks and everything like that. It's got about a 1,500 to 2,000 foot drop on this side.
So like half a foot narrow.
Yeah. He falls
Ridge.
off the mountain. Him and the donkey.
Oh my goodness.
So they're rolling down.
And you're tied.
And you're tied to it? No.
The rope snapped.
Oh, wow.
So the rope snapped.
Wow.
So I'm watching it thinking, holy. He gets up. He's about 150 yards down. The donkey gets back up. He comes back, ties the rope up, and we go off.
Oh my gosh.
I had the worst
And how
part.
scared were you? No.
I was thinking, this is a really bad, this was a mistake.
Yeah.
But the worst part was we get down close to the bottom and we're on the wrong side of the river. There's a big river there. And all the snow is melting on the mountain and it's rushing down into this river. And it's got like white caps. It's rapids, right? Because it's really
And it's
moving
fast,
'cause
yeah.
It's going down the mountain, right? But then the river is also going into an ice cave. So I guess the force of the river, I don't know if it was part of a glacier, made this about the size of this room, this big hole in the ice, and it's going right through it for about 500 feet. And I'm looking at it going, it's about 200 yards away. And he's out, and he's walking up and down the river, figuring out where we're going to cross and thinking, this doesn't look good. So anyway, get on the donkey, and he finds a place, and I think, okay, at least we're going to walk across the river on the donkeys and that. Oh no, we get about 20, 25 feet in, and the donkeys are swimming. And you're floating down the river on a donkey, and you're thinking, hey, my life is in this donkey's hands if he can't swim.
I didn't even know donkeys could swim.
This donkey was swimming. It was trying to save its life. You're sitting on this donkey, and the water's cold. That wasn't the big thing. The big thing was if you're going to get swept into that hole, because you're not going to live if you went through that. No, there's no way. Anyway, donkey made it. I met those guys that night for dinner. I was back in town, and they asked how the ride was. I said it was horrifying. It was terrible. Probably the scariest thing I've ever done.
Wow.
And they were killing themselves laughing because they had done it the year before.
Oh, no.
Same thing.
Oh no!
Same thing.
So the guy hadn't learned.
That was their joke on me.
Yeah, because they didn't
Oh
go
my
along.
goodness.
They met
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was their joke on you. Oh my goodness.
I would say. They'd be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
the worst one.
Okay. And yet you still go on. Now, you had said something about you like challenges. So speak to that and how when you make that accomplishment, when do you celebrate your accomplishment, and how long does it last?
Oh, yes. No, I like getting out of I like to pick something that takes me out of my comfort zone, something that I really don't think I can do. What that does to me, it scares the crap out of me. So
And you like that?
I like that because I know I'm going to train really, really hard because I don't think I can do it. And maybe there's something in the back of my mind is if I didn't do it, I didn't think I could do it anyway. I don't know. But what was the rest of that question? I just lost my train.
Oh, no, that's okay. Just in term, when you do accomplish.
How long does that last?
And do you celebrate your accomplishment at the end?
So for me, when I finish something, say Everest, that's the big one that everybody knows. When I got to the top and when I finished it, on the way down, I was already trying to think of something else to do. It was over. It was just, and I think they're all like
on
that.
to the next.
It was over, and I didn't think about it after that. And people are always going, "Oh, wow, that's so great." And it's like, that's kind of in the past. It's like, it doesn't really mean that much to me.
Right. So you live definitely in the moment to moment.
Mm-hmm.
You celebrate in the moment, and then you're done, and you move on.
And I've talked to lots of people who are the same. Once they finish that event, and they're usually, before they even get to the bottom or the same day the race is over, whatever it is you're doing, they're thinking of something else to do.
Yes. Yes.
And I love that because you can, even within miniature goals, set mini goals, right? For people who might not be climbing 7 summits and crossing deserts. And
sure.
Right? So it's just like always to have a little goal, like be in the moment, be present. Do you kind of move through your 5 senses, would you say, as you're running, or you just try to not be aware of?
No, I just try to
just
really
go in a
focus
zone.
on what's in front of me. And I'm not athletic or anything like that.
I would choose to disagree with that.
So he has a whole different definition, right, for himself,
yes.
right? Mm-hmm. So let's just be clear about that, because for everybody else, they will look at you as a super athlete.
Yes.
That would be a mistake. Really, my goal when I go into these is to finish.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To finish. I'm not trying to come in top 3 in a race. My goal is always to finish. And it drives me crazy if I don't finish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Right.
a super athlete.
And there are people who don't,
So-
and who start and who don't.
there's
Yes.
lots.
Sure.
Yes.
And, right?
Lots. No, I've been very lucky.
I mean, well, let's look at perspective then. So let's start with Everest. Like, what percentage of the population would even consider attempting climbing Mount Everest?
Oh, that I don't. I know there's a lot more the last few years. I've seen
Right.
some of the lineups, but we were pretty lucky when we were there. There wasn't a huge group that were on the mountain, and we were the last ones off the mountain, so it made it nice. We got the summit. There wasn't the crowds that you see now. Like, those crowds are horrendous.
But even still, I mean, I don't know anyone who has summited Everest. Never mind all the other things that you've done. Do you know anyone who's done Everest?
No, my brother has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and I could see him doing Everest.
Right.
But
that's a whole different ballgame.
Yes, I
right?
know.
Because I've climbed Mount Kenya, which is close to Kilimanjaro. And the reason why we chose it was it's the second highest in Africa, but we chose it because it's a more scenic route. So it's not just about getting the highest summit.
Right.
It's about let's enjoy the scenery as we do it, right?
Oh,
so it's
nice.
doable, but I'm losing my thought.
I have not met anybody who has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, let alone 7 summits, crossed deserts, and so
yeah,
definitely.
So the point is,
Amazing.
not many, and then even for those that attempt Everest, they can hit base camp, but then how many actually accomplish the climb?
It's hard. It's a
Right?
small percentage. It really is. You've got to have everything going for you. You've got to have perfect weather. You've got to have your health. You hope you don't get edema or something like that. You don't get injured. You don't get the Kumba cough.
Yes.
There's all kinds of things that can go wrong.
Yes.
So, I was lucky enough to get there on my first attempt. But something could have went wrong and I might never have summited. The weather could have come in. I could have got sick on the way up. There's all kinds of things.
Lots of physical limitations. And in these pictures, there's you wearing masks. What's going on there?
Yeah. We are we're at Camp 3. So at Camp 3, that's the top of the Lhotse face. So you're actually, you can't leave your tent. You have to be tethered. You have to be roped in because it's like a 6,000-foot drop, right? So
Oh, that's all.
yeah, and you won't stop. You won't stop. But anyway, they put you on oxygen there to give you a trial for the oxygen. It's about 25,000 feet, if I'm not mistaken. You get to try oxygen because it is hard to breathe. But then you know, I don't know if you know how it works with Everest. So
No.
you start at base camp, then you go up to Camp 1, and you come back down.
Yeah.
And
To
then you go-
acclimatize.
Yeah. Then you go back up, then you come back down. And then you go to Camp 2, and you come back down. And you go to Camp 3, and you come back down. Oh, yeah, it's never ending. It's not like you just go up and stop. And
Had
go
no
to
idea.
The next one.
Yes.
That's why it takes about 2 months.
So the book to read,
2 months.
So
Wow.
Into Thin Air is what I read years ago, and it talks about that and how some people don't make it, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty harrowing, and yet you speak to it like, oh, it was a breeze. It's amazing to me.
Well, I think so long as it's hard to say, but I don't mean to talk this way. You have to use your common sense and do the same thing over and over again. And if you stray from that, if you start feeling confident, and say you're on the Lhotse face and you don't clip in, or you don't do it properly, and you miss a step and you fall, that's it.
Yes, everything counts.
Yeah, we met some people on the trip. One guy was coming back down. He was coming from Camp 2 back down to Camp 1 and heading back down, and he was crossing some of those ice bridges that you see on the ladders.
Oh, right,
And he wasn't
yes.
clipping in.
Oh, my
He'd been there
goodness.
for a while, so he was running back and forth and doing that, and he didn't make it.
And so you
So-
witnessed this?
No, he had left us. We were talking to him. He had left us, but he fell in a crevasse. So if you don't follow the safety procedures, like just picking up, and clipping in on the rope, and you make one mistake. But to that person's defense, sometimes when you're at high altitude, you're not thinking straight. And it's a lot of work.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like it, but at altitude, it's different.
Yes.
It's a lot of work to bend down and clip in. Doesn't like here, it's like nothing. You think, of course it's not.
Sure.
When you're tired,
And lack of oxygen.
lack of oxygen, you might not be thinking straight. And you might take both your clips. You always have two. You might take both and put them on the other side, and you're supposed to take one at a time. Because if you take them both off, you go to clip in and you fall, there's nothing holding
You're
you.
done.
Yeah.
Great
So
advice.
just,
Follow safety procedures.
Yes.
yeah, but your mind does wander.
Yeah.
And if you're there for a while, you become overconfident sometimes. So and accidents happen.
And so this brings to my personal thought of, wisdom has a play here, because there's certainly lots of people way younger than you that don't finish, that don't accomplish. And so there's some advantages to what you just said. Follow the safety precautions, listen to your body.
You have to listen to your body. Luis always said that the hardest people he takes on a mountain climb are marathon runners. Because they want to push through it, right? And on a climb, it's completely different. You want to go slow and conserve all your energy for summit day. You want to eat lots of food. You don't want to push through. You don't want to do even a tiny thing that you don't have to do. You don't want to carry somebody else's, their goods, anything in their pack. You want to minimize everything you do and save as much energy as you can, because you can't push through it. You'll fail
Right.
on a climb, yeah.
Gosh, I think this is just such words of wisdom, and we can apply it to our lives, right?
Yeah.
Our whole shtick is embrace you first, and this is exactly what you're speaking to. It's like conserve that energy so that you can not only thrive for yourself, but then you can help others down the road, right, in life.
Absolutely.
So, and we know that, as you mentioned earlier, you retired at 48. So I can also see how you have extended that kind of philosophy in how you had become successful. And I think that will deserve another podcast of its own, right?
Yes.
So we'll speak to that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome.
And I don't know that we need to ask the question, how do you fill up your cup today? Because he is so on top of that already. Like, I mean, well, what would you say is the biggest thing that you do for yourself, maybe for your mental health, so that you can engage in that focus when you're in the race outside of your events? Or not necessarily race, but your events.
When I'm in the event?
No, outside of it, on a day-to-day basis, the things that you do to fill up your cup.
Oh, today was an easy one. I just looked outside. It's sunny.
Aw.
It's a beautiful day. The leaves are all changing, But for me, I'll have to have that going on. I have to plan my next event, and that makes me kind of happy.
Got it.
Whether it's a year away or whatever. If I don't have something to look forward to, and I know it sounds strange because you're going to go through all that training again and suffering or whatever it is, but I need that next event all the time.